Hi. Great that everybody's back from lunch. I have to be really quick today because there's a lot of stuff to go through and you're going to go through it with me because we're going to sketch together. I'll give you a quick intro and then we'll jump into it. So this is me. My name's Eva Lotta. I'm actually German. I studied in Cologne. I actually brought a coach from Cologne and drank it in my hotel room in Düsseldorf. Yes. Okay. I lived in Paris for a while and now I live in London. I like to sketch and I like to draw. This is stuff I made yesterday. I take these notes at conferences, so this is from the talks yesterday, which were all amazing, and I was sketching along because I can't help myself. So here you go. That's what I do. I make them into books because I put them all on the internet on Flickr and you can look at them, but somehow it's nice to have them back on its original format because at least my attention span is really bad on the internet. I can't look at things for a long time on the internet without being sucked into something else. So this is very good for a cup of tea and sofa and disconnectedness. I sometimes have time to do illustrations. I did some illustrations for a wonderful book, which is called Content Everywhere by Sarah Wachter-Böttcher. It's about content strategy, and I was lucky enough to do the chapter intros that you saw in the background. So, but I don't do that all the time, but when I get to do it, I'm very happy. I also love drawing letters when I get time to do that. But normally I use sketching in my day job. I'm an interaction designer, and if you do stuff like this, which you probably do, you might be familiar with sketching boxes and arrows, trying to figure out how things should work. My sketches are also very messy very often, but I use it all the time, mostly to think and to communicate. But I'm not going to talk about boxes and arrows today. We're going to sketch things that are much more fun. But I think sketching in general is a great tool for designers and also people who are not necessarily designers but who work in inventing and making stuff, which I guess you all do, to use because there are a few advantages to it. One thing is people are naturally drawn to visuals, which is great. If you want to explain something, if you want to sell an idea or just explain an idea, you already have an advantage if you come with some visuals and some things that people can look at rather than like a 60-page document that people have to read through. And sometimes, I mean, it depends where you work. I've worked a lot in technology companies, and sometimes you have to kind of catch people's interest with something visual, and then you can sneak the message in so that they will listen to you. So visuals can be a really cool thing to kind of get this first interest, and then you can deliver the explanation with it. Another thing is that when you read visual explanations, it is actually not a linear process where you just consume and you read through, but it is an interactive process. So by looking at diagrams and sketches and things that are non-linear and in space on a 2D plane, you have to kind of decipher it and put some mental capacity into understanding it. And there's this great expression in the English language when people finally get what you want to explain, they actually say, I see what you mean. And that's exactly what we want them to do, right? We want them to see what they mean, and how can we make them see what they mean better by actually showing them what we mean, like draw them a picture. Before we jump into actually drawing pictures, a little note of encouragement. This is Jason Santamaria. He's a web designer, and he wrote a blog post about sketching a few years back now, and he actually writes in there, sketching is not about being a good artist, but about being a good thinker. And I wholeheartedly agree. I love pretty drawings and pretty sketches, and the stuff that Sarah showed is amazing, and I love looking at beautiful pictures. But the drawing and the sketching I'm talking about is to help you think and to help you communicate. And if it comes out pretty, that's kind of the cherry on top of the icing, on top of the cake. But we're dealing with the cake, so the substance, and it's about expressing ideas. So here is a great environment where you can just go and do stuff, and you won't be judged on the quality of your output. It is for experimentation, so you can relax and really go with it, because then it's much more fun. Okay, we'll start like all good athletes who want to achieve something. We start with a warm-up, because we want to start slowly, and I don't want you to be stressed out too fast, too quickly, too much. So if we could switch to the camera thingy. Here we go. This is live, me, my hand. I had a manicure for the first time. This is the first time I'm wearing nail polish in over 13 years. Just for you. Alrighty, we'll start with a little warm-up. This is the moment when you need your pen and paper, because I would like you to go with me. Cool, let's go. So, and if you think you're rubbish at drawing, you're the best people to be in the room, because you'll get the most out of this session. Here we go. So we'll start really simple, and I'm interested, what is the simplest thing I can sketch? Any suggestions? Shout. Circle. It's way too complicated for me, man. What? Dots. Dots. Yeah, let's do some dots. So this is very good for warming up the wrist, right, and just getting into the flow. You can see what I'm doing, right? I'm just making some dots. You can do messy dots like anywhere. You can be German and order them in a line. Dotted lines are really good. This will come in handy when you want to sketch somebody with freckles. This day will come, and you will be thankful. Also, if you want a challenge, try to make your dots like messy, but try to make them really even, so when you squint your eyes, you have no holes and no blotches. It is more difficult than you might think. Okay, some dots. Dots can also go for a walk. Boop, 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 boop. Cool. But because we are fast learners, we're going to move on to the next more complicated thing, which is a line. Exactly. Let's do some lines, my friends. We can do some straight lines. We can do longer lines and shorter lines. We can try to keep them parallel. Of course, we can also do some vertical lines. If you have problem with wonky lines, yeah, that are kind of not straight and stuff, try drawing towards yourself, because that kind of helps to control where the line goes. It's easier than drawing away from yourself. It's much more chance to get wonky. The advantage with paper is you can always turn it so that you always do your lines towards you, if that helps you. Also, if you want to do parallel lines, it is good to do all the parallel lines in one go, because actually we have something like muscle memory, and our hand remembers the movement it just did before. So when you do all your parallel lines in one go, you have more chance of making them parallel than if you go like, do something else in between. Okay, little game. You need to make friends with your friendly neighbor. You need to be 2 people together, otherwise turn to another table. You need a new piece of paper. We're going to do a little game, because games are fun, and this is called Play and Make. So we're going to play. I explained the game. It is really simple. Okay, person number 1 makes a dot on the page and makes a second dot. Here we go. And then person number 2 comes in with their pen, puts their pen onto the first dot, and then in one swift, straight move, shoots. Boom! Through the other dot, theoretically. This is nil point. No point. Then the person who just made the line makes another dot, and then person number 1 comes back in, puts their pen on the previous dot, and goes boom! Oh, I'm really terrible today. No points. The person in the room who reaches 3 points shouts bingo. Go. Woo! 3 points? Wow. That was quick. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So, we really had a bingo in the back of the room? No cheat. Okay, good. Any second bingos? Come on, continue, because there are actually prizes. I just got prizes for the bingo winners. You're kidding me, are you? Bingo! Second bingo. You're both winning some fantastic bamboo styluses that Mark is gonna hand deliver to you. Well done. Okay, cool. We're going to move on from lines. Actually, when you have lines, you can do pretty amazing stuff with lines by just putting a few lines together. Like, for example, 3 lines, you can make some triangles. Let's make some triangles. Have a quick look. What I don't want you to do is this. Like, do it in one thing, and then you go from triangle to some kind of pathetic squiggle, and you don't know what it is in the end. So I want you to lift your pen after each stroke. If the corners overlap, it doesn't matter that much. At least you can see it's a corner. So let's do some triangles. You can do bigger triangles and smaller triangles. You probably tend to always sketch at a similar kind of size, because we all have a size we feel comfortable at. If so, do also some shapes that are much bigger and some which are much smaller, because it's good to push yourself a little bit out of the comfort zone and tell your hand that it can actually do things it normally doesn't do. Okay, triangles, lots of triangles. When we're done with the triangles, we can go to the 4-sided triangle, also known as square. Same thing. Lift your pen after each stroke, and you can do long squares, which are rectangles. Yeah, as I said, if you have problems with the sides not being parallel, do the 2 sides first, and then close it off with the top and the bottom. That can help with that. And just do some different sized squares. Again, if you always do small ones, do really badass big ones. It's good for your hand. Cool. Okay. And we'll move on to everybody's favorite shape, the perfect circle. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. There is no secret to doing perfect circles except from practicing. So let's make some circles. It's kind of difficult to hit the spot where you started. It's a little bit like the dot shooting exercise, but in a circle. Yeah, do smaller ones. You can do really tiny ones just out of the fingertips, like little bubbles. You can do slightly bigger ones out of the hand and the wrist. And then you can do the big, badass ones that come out of the whole arm. The bigger the circle, the more difficult it is to hit the spot where it came from. If you always do your circles anti-clockwise, try doing them clockwise, just for fun. Boom. If you always start your circles on the top, start them on the bottom, just for fun. And then start them on the wrong side and in the wrong direction, just so that your hand can actually get used to the fact that it's flexible. Here we go. Fantastic. That's the warm-up. I hope everybody's warmed up. At least we have some stuff on our paper now, so we don't have to be scared of the empty page. Oh, can we switch back for a second to the presentation? Cool. Before we continue with actually making marks on paper, I want to make a little point, and I'm guilty of sloppy language as well sometimes, but we sometimes, or very often, use these 2 words, sketching and drawing, interchangeably for the same thing, but actually I want to stretch the point that it's not quite the same thing. So, because sketching is actually about expressing ideas, rather than creating specific portraits of the world. So we're not doing like still life drawing and trying to recreate reality in our drawing in a fine art sense, but we want to sketch for ideas. And this is from a book from Scott McCloud, who's a great comic artist, who made a book called Understanding Comics, which is basically a comic about how comics work and how comic artists communicate visually. And this is from his book. And here, in this series, he nicely shows the difference and the gradient between sketching and between drawing and sketching. So on the left-hand side, you have a drawing which is pretty realistic, and then the more it gets abstract, the more it becomes a sketch. And also, the more it becomes from a specific portrait of somebody who I could actually identify as Joe, my neighbor, 45 years old, drives a BMW and washes it on Saturdays at 1300, to just the idea of a human face. This is also the reason why we actually make wireframes and stuff, because we don't want people to get distracted by the fact that they don't like his haircut or the color of the button or the radius of the corners, but that there should be a button in the first place. And as you can see, like the sketch, it is fairly simple. It uses simple shapes. And actually, if you can sketch some simple shapes, like the simple shapes we did in the warm-up, you can sketch almost anything. It is basically, sketching is like Lego. You have simple shapes, you put them together in all kinds of crazy ways, and you can make anything you like. And this, my friends, is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to sketch some stuff. Can we go back to the sketching? Cool. Alrighty, let's sketch some stuff. Good. We'll start with some objects, just so I can explain you the Lego theory of sketching. Objects are great because objects are normally not running away when you look at them, so it's a little bit easier to start with objects. You can look at them and then sketch them. So it's basically about putting basic shapes together and to make stuff. I always had difficulties in drawing bicycles. I see bicycles every day, and as soon as I have to sketch them, it's like, oh, freaks. So it's like, this is the structure, and how does it fit together? And so simple shapes to the rescue. So bikes are actually a triangle next to another triangle, because triangles are really stable. That's really cool about triangles. Then you have a little line. And then we have our friends, the perfect circles. One goes around here, one goes around here. You might have guessed, these are the wheels. Boom. And then we have the steering thingy and the sitting thingy, the saddle. And here we have our bike. That's enough to say it's a bike. I could now go on and kind of put the tires on, and maybe the spokes. Here we go, and some paddles, and the little bell, and my little water bottle where I have my water when I go on the ride, and the cat eyes. But all this stuff is not necessary. This is all like decoration to kind of put on top, and it's not really necessary. Maybe if I go into the details and I actually want to talk about the bottle on the bike. But for the concept of the bike, the basic shapes are just enough. And if you do that 50 times, you can sketch a bike in no time. I won't show you much more about objects. Sketching technology is actually really easy because it's basically just that. This could be my phone, my tablet, my answering machine, my whatever, my sensor. So you don't need much skill to actually sketch technology. You'll get by with that. I'm gonna get to something which is much more interesting, which is actually people. Because at the end of the day, the stuff that we design is for people. We sometimes forget, and we sketch the interfaces all the time and don't involve the people. But with all the brilliant Internet of Things stuff that we heard, it actually makes sense if you want to sketch little scenarios and little stories and illustrate them to involve the people that are in there, because also we will not continue to kind of just tap like this, but we will involve our whole body in interacting with the things around us. So learning how to sketch people is probably a valuable skill. Here we go, Lego theory for people. What we normally do when we sketch people, we often do this, which is kind of okay to say this is a person as opposed to a database. On that level, it's totally fine. But if you want to this person to interact a little bit more, it gets awkward because actually that his arms come out of the sides and he's not really that flexible. So I'll show you how, with not much more effort, you can actually make little people that can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Here we go. Simple shapes. If we look at our body, it's always good when you sketch stuff to start with the biggest part first. So the biggest part is actually not our head, it is our torso. So a rough approximation of the shape of the torso, let's say it's a rectangle. Of course, we're not all rectangles, but that is enough for now. It's always good to know where the ground is, so I make a little ground line. And then connecting the torso and the ground are legs. Legs have a fantastic feature. It's called a knee. And actually, the knee gives us the possibility to change direction in the middle of the leg if we choose. We don't have to, but we can remember that we could. So when I sketch the legs, I can make a little stop. When I come to the knee and I think, do I want to change direction? No. But sometimes I do. Here we go. Then we have arms. Same thing with arms, elbows, change direction in the middle of the arm. So I can kind of do things like this, boom. And the hand, again, it sits on the wrist, so it's just another little bend where you can change direction with your hand. And then last but not least, we have the head. It actually does sit on the neck. Again, it gives us the possibility to change direction. I'm getting boring already. And here we go. Here we have our little fellow who's already a little bit more flexible than the other fellow up there. And the last, it's good to know which direction we're looking at. So we could just put a little nose in the direction where we're looking, and here we go. And he's actually thinking about life and to be or not to be and things like that. So I could put like fancy hats on him, and like now I'm decorating, you know, like at the time they had these trousers here and like the ruffles and things like that. So this is a really easy framework. These people are really flexible. You can make them do all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. I like to play around with them and just do some postures and see what they can do, so you can make them run. I don't know what he saw. Maybe like some dinosaur here or something. Or it's a wolf. I don't know. It's a dinosaur wolf. Oh my God. He's running away. I'm off screen. Sorry, the dinosaur. Boop, here he is. He's gone. Nothing to worry about. Whew. Okay, good. You can make them, what can you make them do? You can make them meditate. We heard about meditation yesterday from James. I like meditation as well. I got into it. It's hard for me, but it's good. You can make them do all kinds of stuff. Like you can make them, I like this one. Will you recognize? Yeah, it is Gangnam Style. So you can, I mean, you can play with it and just see what comes off it. Sometimes I just doodle these things, and then I see if the stuff that I'm doodling actually makes sense. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. This guy is just having a beer and sitting there with his legs crossed. He's probably sitting on some kind of a sofa here. So yeah, this is a nice framework to kind of start to play with. A very quick thing about things that you can play with, not only with the posture. You can start playing with all kinds of parameters. First thing, I said like approximately, it's a rectangle. Of course we are not rectangles, right? I mean, we are all kinds of shapes. So you can start playing with shapes, and instead of a rectangle, you could kind of do different shapes and see what kind of people you get from it. So here we have kind of our normal guy. He's very normal. He's just standing there. And here we have another guy. Here we go. Very different kind of guy. He's more of an Arnold Schwarzenegger. He has muscles. Boom. Yeah. Here we go. And then here we probably have like a... I'm fulfilling all the stereotypical gender cliches. I'm actually quite emancipated, so I'm sorry you don't mind. It's like sometimes using cliches for communicating can be handy because you're tapping into existing concepts, but I don't think all women have to wear dresses. And here we go. Here we have the last guy. He's probably, I'm putting in some technology. He's actually checking his phone. Here we go. Here we go. And he's the business guy checking his phone. Okay, so you can play with shapes. Doing these different shapes is a really simple, quick way to distinguish your different people in a scenario that you're drawing. So you have kind of the guy, the square guy with the t-shirt, and then you have the lady with the stripy dress, and that's a really easy way to use the same framework but have different people when you do a scenario with 2 or 3 people in it. Things you can play with as well. This is kind of a 101 lesson in design. You can play with shape. You can play with proportion. So, of course, you can do something like this. If we have somebody like this, I crossed that out because sketching is about correcting errors on the fly. Here we go. Here we have like a really here we go. And actually the funny thing is that nobody would think that this is a tiny adult. If you change the proportion, if you make a really big head with a small body, you instantly have a child because actually our proportions change when we grow. The head is the part of the body that grows least. And if you do like really long people, they are more adult. Here we go. If you put vertical stripes, they make it actually longer. It's like what you learn. Right. Here we go. So you can play with proportions. You can do all kinds of things with finding kind of the proportions that work for you and find your own style and have a little bit of fun with it. The last thing you can play with, actually, I mean, our bodies are not, I mean, our torso can actually move. Of course, they're not just straight rectangles. So you can give them a little bit of, you can actually play with the dynamic of the rectangle and make it a little bit bent. So you can give a little bit of dynamic to the rectangle. Also, what plays with that as well is actually one important thing is kind of the relationship between the head and the body. So if this is the standard relationship between head and body, like nicely separated. It's also if I stood here and I talk to you like this and I'm smiling, you might not believe it because actually our body language tells us also something about our emotions. So, and especially it's the relationship between head and body, where the head sits in relation to the body. So if we look at this guy, he's probably having a very different time from this guy. Just by different, making the body like being sunk into the shoulders. And you can accentuate that when you combine this with a little dynamic in the rectangle. You can actually accentuate it and probably this guy here is having a very different time from this guy here, because he has kind of a downward dynamic and this guy, boom, has got an upward dynamic. And just playing with this and can help a lot. The head in front of the body thing is also great when you want to make somebody look down. I mean, if you want to sketch somebody sitting in front of their computer typing away, this is a really great thing. Because automatically by putting the head in front of the body and then just having the nose pointed to the bottom, it automatically looks like they are hunched over their computer, and then you have the mouse here, and then they kind of click here and tap, 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 tap. They tap away and work all night, and here we go. That's the window, and he sits. And he gets tired. Okay, so that's the story about how you can do that. I already alluded to expressing emotion in kind of the body language. But of course, how do we express emotions most? It's actually through our face. So a quick framework for sketching emotions and sketching faces, and this is where I invite you to sketch with me. If you make a big square, like one of the big badass ones that I told you in the beginning, and then you divide the square into 9 sub-squares like tic-tac-toe. And then into each you make 2 dots and an L so that you have kind of a basic face. This is the face matrix. Here we go. And what you do then is I make an arc open to the bottom over the first column, and then I make an arc open to the top over the second column, and then I make a straight line. And I do the same next to the rows. I make an arc open to the bottom, an arc open to the top, and a straight line. And now I just do stupidly filling out the matrix. So I take the shape that is above my first column, and then I go down the column and just put this shape above the eyes. Boom. Just going down, really easy. And then I pick up the shape on the second column, and then I go down the column and do exactly the same thing. And then I pick up the shape, third column, and do the same thing. And then I do the same with the rows. So I go to the left, and I pick up the shape here, and then I just go to the side through my row and put it underneath, like this. And then I pick up the shape here and go along the row like this. And I do the last thing, boring, boom, 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 boom. Okay. I didn't invent that. I think Dave Gray invented that, who's a great visualizer. Austin Kleon did that at a workshop as well. So I haven't invented all that stuff, but it comes in handy, and remixing it is good. So what you can see here, what you get, is you get the same guy in probably 9 very different states of emotion. So first one, he's really sad. He's the colleague who had to stay back in the office and couldn't come to the conference. And then the second guy, he's really angry. Yeah, this is the second on the left, in the middle row. That's probably you, pretty happy to be here. And the guy in the middle, he's the mean guy. He's the guy who's always nice to your face, and then he writes nasty emails to your boss. Don't want to work with him. So just to say, all this stuff, just to say, is it's the same idea. There's several parameters that you can play with, and it's basically the eyebrows and the mouth. And you don't have to stay monobrow. You can actually detach them. That was just for the simplicity of the exercise. And some people actually can do crazy things with their eyebrows, so you can even make the 2 eyebrows do different things. And again, you don't have to stay just with the lines for the mouth. You can kind of come up with all kinds of crazy mouth shapes, and you can even make people wink. Here we go. And if you place that stuff into a face, you can just, depending on where you want people to look, you can just place the face in different, like to the right or to the left. The eyebrows don't have to stay inside of the head. Okay, can jump out a little bit cartoon style. If you want people to look down, you can do this. This guy is he's reading an article in the newspaper, and he's really furious about that. Look at him, he's angry. Oh my God, he's angry. Yeah, so this is just a little bit of a start to start playing with this stuff, because I mean, at the end you have to practice, because this is just a start. But I actually have slides about that, so can we switch back to the slides? Thank you. If you want to know more about this Lego theory of sketching, there's a lovely book. It's a children's book. It's by an illustrator called Ed Emberley, and it's called Make a World, and it has got everything in it. It has got bridges, it has got dinosaurs, it has everything except computers that you need to build a world. And he shows you exactly that. He shows you how to add simple shapes to one another step by step, and you can make about anything. It's amazing. And it's only €4 or €5, so it's a really nice little book. But as I said, this is one of my improvisation teachers, and he says you don't become an improviser by attending workshops, and he's right. You become an improviser by practicing, and you become a designer by designing. You become a good sketcher by practicing and by sketching. So this is only a start, and it's up to you to kind of actually do the practice work. And I have a few tips, or a few things that I do for practicing, because I have to practice as well. I have to practice lots of things. So first thing that is kind of a hurdle is making time for practice, because everybody is always busy, and I am as well, and it can be quite hard to kind of see, oh, another thing to fit in. So I like to use my downtime. I have these tiny sketchbooks. They are like this size, and they fit in the pocket. And when I started my job 2 years ago, my new job, my commute got longer, so I now have 40 minutes on the tube, on the underground. And I use this, no internet in there, oh my God. And I use this time to practice sketching. I got into lettering, I like drawing letters, so I wanted to practice my lettering, and so I subscribed to a daily email from the Oxford Dictionary, which sends you the daily word of the day. From the dictionary, so you also learn some definitions of words. And I would just sketch these. So every day I had a new word, got into the tube, and then I just do different variations of this and just sketch these words for 40 minutes on the tube. Fantastic. And then in the evening, my rule was I will just scan them and spend about 30 minutes cleaning them up in Photoshop. So that I have something that is kind of finished. So here are some more sketches, and the final thing cleaned up, and these are just some of the things that I did. I just had fun with different styles and just fooling around, basically. This sketchnoting stuff that I do is also making time for practice, because I'm doing two things at once. I'm here anyway to listen to awesome talks, but I can also use the time to practice my sketching by taking sketch notes. Fantastic. Like, I like two-in-one things. You can also sketch while you watch TV, or you can doodle in meetings and things like that. There are loads of places where you can actually, where your mind needs to be engaged, but your hands can do something else. Another thing that is important when you practice is actually practicing wider than your discipline. And not only I think that this is a good idea. This is Andy Murray. You can see the likeness. And Andy Murray is a great tennis player, but actually when he trains for Wimbledon or whatever tournament he doesn't only play tennis. He does all kinds of stuff. He runs, he does push-ups, he does weight training, he does stretching, he even does hot yoga. I learned that. And the thing is, he only is such a great tennis player because he also practices wider than his discipline. All these things that he learns from the different activities that he does make him a better tennis player. And the same is true for designers and developers. The more you practice outside of your immediate discipline, there are always things you can learn that will help you with your discipline. So I'm a sucker for workshops. I love learning new stuff. So some of the things that I started doing this year is I took calligraphy classes. I'm not going to become a calligrapher. I won't write your wedding invites, but it tells you a lot about construction of letters and handwriting. I did a sign painter workshop. Again, I won't paint signs, but it's great to get this skill. And I'm doing improvisation, which is like theater improvisation, which has, on the first glance, nothing to do with design, but in my opinion, the design process is an improvisation process. I can talk about that a different time. But all these things help me to make stuff like this. This was a big thing that I did for a conference in New York, Beta Day, where I did sketch notes on a big scale. And by having done the sign painting and my lettering got much better. The improvisation helps me to kind of make decisions on the spot where to place things and not freak out when something goes wrong, because that's part of what you learn in improvising. So all these things, and we are great. Humans are great pattern recognizers, so we are really good at transferring skills and spotting something in something apparently really unrelated and knowing how to transfer it back to something that matters to us. We're really good at that, so trust that you will learn something from practicing outside of your discipline. And what it also taught me, like learning all this new stuff, is it taught me, what it taught me most is actually getting used to learning something new, because learning something new is quite a hard thing. And there's always a learning curve, and I'm not talking about if something is really difficult or easy to pick up, but I'm talking about my emotional learning curve, the emotions I go through, this roller coaster. Every day I learn something new. But actually it is. So first I see something and I think, oh, that's amazing, I want to learn that, I'm signing up for the workshop now, I'm completely pumped. And then the workshop starts and you start doing it, and then it's like, shit! It's hard, I suck at that. And this is the moment where I freak out. And this is really the moment when you can really drop out. It feels terrible every single time, it does. And then it's kind of your slow way up the hill. Yeah, slowly, there's some things that you learn. And at some point when you keep going, hopefully you will get to the fun. But you have to go through the dip. And by learning something new and putting myself through the process so many times, I now know that I know this feeling will come, and I don't freak out when it comes. It's just like, yeah, it sucks, yeah, like last time, but it's gonna get better. So that's what I learned from learning something new as well. And last but not least, the last point I want to make is the best way to learn is playing. Because when you play, you don't really notice that you learn, and you don't really notice that you practice. Playing is basically equals learning for children. I mean, how do we learn what we know about the world as children? They play, right? We make up stuff and we make up situations, and that's how we learn for the real situations that we come in. So having a playful approach is great, because then you don't even notice that you practice. I give you an example. We have big whiteboards in the office, and people put random stuff on there. Sometimes they brainstorm, sometimes they just say, hi, I was here, and sometimes they make jokes, whatever. And one day, somebody wrote that on there. I have no idea why, 1Z. And I saw that, and I thought, oh, a onesie. So I drew a onesie. And at some point, it was like, oh, there could be a 2Z. And then somebody else came along and said, oh yeah, a groupsie. And then it went on. It went viral on the wall like a 3-2-1Z. Or a nunsie. And you play with rhymes. Oh, fucking gunsie, Texas. A sunsie. And then also other people joined in. This was an engineer joining in. I love that. A shunsie. Yeah, then there was a clumsy, cheeky bumsy, a runsie, and the onesie. And everybody joined in. I mean, there's engineers, right? I would have never come up with that. We work agile. We have scrumsies. Then you can also have film references. Oh, this one. And of course, because it's Google, you need Star Trek, right? Not Star Trek, Star Wars. I never watched Star Wars, I have to say. Whatever. Oh! But in the end, I mean, this was the wall. And the funny thing is, it started between just 2 or 3 of my colleagues, and then everybody joined in. PMs, engineers, who knows who joined in? I don't know. But the thing is, play is really infectious. Just by this stuff being there, people started sketching, and I think they probably don't think they can sketch and stuff. But it was just a lot of fun, and also a little bit of practice, I think, at the same time. Another thing how I like to practice is when I need a break, I like having a doodle break from all the brainy stuff I do. I just like to switch gears and take 5 minutes off and just doodle something. And I like doodling random things, and sometimes I don't know what to doodle, so I need a little help. And a friend of mine helped me, one of my colleagues, to do this thing, which is a random sentence generator. So I just gave him a spreadsheet with different parts of sentences, and he made it do things like generate random sentences. This is one random sentence, a crazy cat selling a sausage. And I put this up on the wall in the studio again and said, well, this is, if you need a break today, have a doodle break and doodle this. And this is what some of my colleagues came up with. This is a crazy cat. This is Peter's crazy cat. This is another version of a crazy cat. This is my crazy cat. Going into a vegan meeting, selling sausages. Crazy cat. This is my colleague Simon. It's a little bit more. He's into psychology. But the thing is, when you tell somebody draw a crazy cat selling a sausage, everybody has a different image in their head and a different story, and it's amazing how many different variations actually come out when people start sketching that. So I have the random sentence generator. It's online. I put it online. If you want to have a doodle break at some point, you can by going there. I can show you the random sentence generator, and I'll give you one sentence to doodle. Can you see that? No, you can't, because it's in the parallel universe. To which side? Does it come? Well, the thing is, where's my mouse? Here. Okay, new sentence, it does this. A lovesick politician hating an orange. Yeah. Or you could have tiny clown throwing ice cream. Green. Or a grumpy tree hoping for cigarettes. So yeah, you can go on there, and if you do doodle something, hashtag it with Doodle Break, and we can all follow the hashtag or have a look and enjoy what you come up with, because it's a lot of fun. And with that, I'm 34 seconds over. I wish you a lot of happy sketching. Go forth and sketch and practice and have fun, and don't take it too seriously, because at the end of the day we all want to play. Thank you.